I watched Tyler Hargrove hand me the termination papers at 2:47 in the afternoon, his smile so wide you'd think he was giving me a promotion instead of destroying my career. "Fresh start," he chirped, like firing the person who built your entire IT infrastructure from scratch was some kind of spring cleaning. Security escorted me out at 2:52. At exactly 2:59, every screen in the building went black. My phone buzzed with an automated email from Cloud Vault Systems as panic erupted behind me. The security guard froze mid-step as the electronic lock on the exit door died. The little green light that had been blinking cheerfully just seconds before went dark, and we stood there in the lobby like statues, while chaos exploded throughout the building behind us. I heard it before I saw it. A wave of confusion rolling through Bridgemont Solutions like a physical thing, voices rising from every direction. Someone shouting about their computer, someone else yelling that the phones were down, the hum of 200 people realizing simultaneously that something was very, very wrong. The security guard, a kind older man named Frank, who always asked about my weekend, tried his badge on the manual override. Nothing. He looked at me with genuine concern in his eyes, and I realized he thought I might have something to do with this. Everyone was going to think that. I pulled out my phone. Still had data, thank goodness. The email from Cloud Vault was sitting right there in my inbox, sent at exactly 2:59 and 30 seconds. I opened it with shaking hands. Subject line: Automatic Security Protocol Initiated. The body of the email was professionally sterile, the kind of corporate language that makes disasters sound like routine maintenance. Per Master Service Agreement Section 7.3, upon termination of named administrator Kathleen Porter, all access credentials are automatically revoked. System access restoration requires named administrator authorization or completion of 60-day security protocol. Please contact your account manager for emergency restoration procedures. There was an attachment. A PDF of the MSA we'd signed 4 years ago, when I'd convinced Marshall Hargrove, the founder and my boss, that we needed enterprise-level security. When we were growing fast and had just landed our first major government contract, when doing things right mattered more than cutting corners. I'd been so proud of that infrastructure. Built it myself over 3 years. Every security protocol, every backup system, every failsafe. It was my baby, and it was bulletproof, which was exactly the problem right now. Tyler appeared in the lobby, his face red and twisted with rage that made him look nothing like the smooth MBA graduate who'd walked into his first day as Chief Operating Officer just 6 hours earlier. He was 28 years old, Marshall's nephew, his dead sister's son, hired because of family, not competence. I'd known the moment I met him that we were going to have problems. What I hadn't known was that he'd fire me before lunch on his first day. He spotted me standing there with Frank, saw my phone in my hand, and practically ran across the lobby. "Give me that," he demanded, grabbing for my phone. I pulled it back, but he was faster. He snatched it out of my hand and started reading, his face going from red to purple. "What the hell is this? What did you do?" A crowd was forming. Other employees, drawn by the commotion. Tyler read the email out loud, his voice getting louder with each word. By the time he finished, at least 30 people had gathered around us. I saw faces I knew, people I'd worked with for 6 years, friends, or at least I'd thought they were friends. Marshall pushed through the crowd. He was 62, supposed to be semi-retired. Spent most of his time on the golf course these days. He was wearing expensive casual clothes and had that sun-weathered look of a man who'd made his money and was enjoying it, until now. Now he looked confused and angry. What's going on? Why is everything down? Tyler thrust my phone at him. Read this. She sabotaged us. She built this whole system to hold us hostage. I found my voice. I built it for security. 4 years ago, you approved it, Marshall. You signed the MSA yourself. Marshall took the phone, squinting at the screen. He didn't like wearing his reading glasses in public. Made him feel old, he'd once told me. He read slowly, his frown deepening with each line. What's a named administrator? I took a breath, trying to keep my voice calm and professional even though my hands were shaking. It's the person who has root access to all systems. I'm the only one authorized to access our core infrastructure. It's a security feature. If I'm terminated, the vendor automatically locks everything down to prevent unauthorized access. It's standard practice in enterprise IT. Tyler's voice went shrill. Standard practice? You designed a trap. I designed secure systems. You're the one who fired me without checking what agreements we had in place. Marshall's face had gone pale. He understood now. Can you fix it? I looked at him. At this man who'd hired me 6 years ago when I was 28 years old and hungry to prove myself, who'd given me free rein to build something amazing, who just let his nephew fire me without even asking why. I don't work here anymore, I said quietly. You just fired me. Tyler exploded. This is sabotage. We're calling the police. You're going to jail for this. Marshall held up a hand, trying to restore some order. Let's all calm down. Kathleen, obviously there's been a misunderstanding. Let's undo this. You're not fired. Come back tomorrow, and we'll sort everything out. I shook my head. I need to think about it. I'll let you know tomorrow. Tyler looked like he wanted to strangle me. You'll let us know? We're not asking. I turned to him, meeting his eyes for the first time since he'd handed me those termination papers. Even if I wanted to help right now, I can't. The vendor's automated system has a 12-hour lock after the termination trigger. Nothing can be done until tomorrow morning at the earliest. It's in the contract, the one Marshall signed, the one you should have read before firing your only systems administrator. The crowd had gone quiet. Everyone was listening now. Frank, the security guard, had given up on the door and was watching like this was a movie. You're holding us hostage, Tyler said. His voice was lower now, dangerous. No, I replied. You fired your named administrator without reading your own contracts. That's not my problem. That's yours. I walked to the manual override on the door. Frank showed me which panel to open. The building was only 3 years old and had backup mechanical releases for exactly this kind of situation. Fire code required it. I pulled the lever, and the door swung open. The October air hit my face, cool and crisp. It was 2 days before Halloween. I'd had plans to help decorate the office. Stupid plans now. I walked out of Bridgemont Solutions with 200 pairs of eyes on my back and no idea what I was going to do next. I made it to the parking garage before Patricia Brennan caught up with me. She was the HR director, had been with the company for 8 years. We'd worked together on dozens of hiring decisions. I liked her, trusted her. Kathleen, wait. I turned. She looked stressed, her normally perfect hair slightly messed up like she'd been running her hands through it. She glanced around to make sure we were alone, then pulled a manila folder from under her arm and handed it to me. You didn't get this from me. I opened it. My termination paperwork. Standard forms, mostly. But there was a handwritten note clipped to the top page. Tyler's handwriting. I recognized it from the signature he'd scrawled on my termination letter. Remove old guard. Install my team. Starting with IT. I looked up at Patricia. She met my eyes, and I saw something there. Fear, maybe, Or anger? I found the MSA last night when I was processing your termination, she said quietly. I went to Marshall this morning before Tyler got here. Told him this was a terrible idea. Showed him the consequences. He said he'd handle it. Tyler overruled him. Said it had to happen today. Why? I don't know. But Kathleen, be careful. Tyler's been here one day and he's already talking about restructuring. You're not the only person he wants gone. She walked back toward the building, leaving me standing there with the folder in my hands and a sick feeling in my stomach. This wasn't about my performance. This wasn't about budget cuts or restructuring or any of the normal reasons people get fired. This was something else. Something planned. I got in my car and drove home, watching my phone light up with call after call from the office. I ignored every single one. The radio news at the top of the hour mentioned a tech company in Austin experiencing system failures. They didn't name Bridgemont yet, but they would. By the time I pulled into my apartment complex, there were news vans in front of the Bridgemont building on my phone's news feed. The story was already getting bigger than I'd imagined. I walked into my apartment, closed the door, and for the first time since 2:47 that afternoon, I let myself feel it. The shock, the fear, the anger. I'd built something beautiful and secure and professional, and now it was being used to destroy me. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Marshall's number. I let it go to voicemail. Tomorrow, I'd figure out what to do. Tonight, I just needed to breathe. I woke up to 37 missed calls and a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. The clock on my nightstand read 6:42 in the morning, which meant I'd slept maybe 4 hours. My eyes felt gritty and my head ached. The news was everywhere. I scrolled through article after article on my phone, still lying in bed because getting up meant facing reality. Austin tech firm, paralyzed in IT meltdown. Local company faces crisis. After systems failure, Bridgemont Solutions, lockdown for 16 hours. The articles were short on details but long on speculation. Cyber attack, ransomware. One article even suggested terrorist activity. None of them named me yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. The company was hemorrhaging money, $40,000 per hour in lost productivity, according to one estimate. Clients were panicking. Bridgemont's reputation, carefully built over 15 years, was circling the drain. And everyone inside the company knew it was because Tyler Hargrove had fired me without thinking. My phone rang. Marshall. Again. I stared at it for 3 rings, then answered. Kathleen. Thank God. His voice was hoarse, like he'd been up all night. Please, come in. Let's talk. I sat up, running my hand through my hair. What time? 9? Please. I'll make this right. I'll be there. I hung up before he could say anything else. Then I got up and took the longest shower of my life, trying to wash away the feeling that my entire world had collapsed in less than 24 hours. I dressed carefully. Professional but not too formal. Jeans and a nice sweater. I wasn't an employee anymore after all. I was something else now. I just wasn't sure what. The drive to Bridgemont took 20 minutes. There were still news vans outside, though fewer than last night. I parked in the visitor lot instead of my usual spot. That felt significant somehow. Marshall met me in the lobby. He looked terrible. Rumpled clothes, bloodshot eyes. Frank, the security guard, was back on duty, and he gave me a sympathetic nod as I walked past. Thank you for coming, Marshall said. He tried to smile and failed. He led me to the big conference room on the 3rd floor, the one with the glass walls and the view of downtown Austin. I'd been in this room hundreds of times for meetings, presentations, celebrations. I walked in and stopped. Tyler was there, along with 3 other people I didn't recognize. One of them stood up and extended his hand. "Miss Porter, I'm Douglas Penner. I'm an attorney representing Bridgemont Solutions." My stomach dropped. This wasn't a negotiation. This was an ambush. I shook his hand because my mother raised me to be polite, even when I wanted to run. "Please, sit." Saturday, Marshall sat across from me, not meeting my eyes. Tyler was staring at me with barely concealed hostility. The other 2 people were typing on laptops, probably taking notes. Douglas opened a leather folder and pulled out a document. He slid it across the table to me. "We need to discuss the situation," he began. His voice was smooth, practiced, the kind of voice that made bad news sound reasonable. I looked down at the document. "Comprehensive Liability Waiver and Release," the header read. "Ms. Porter, your infrastructure design has caused substantial damage to Bridgemont Solutions. We've calculated losses at $1.2 million so far, and that number is climbing. We're prepared to argue that this represents negligent design." I looked up. "Negligent design? You created a system that could be weaponized against the company." "I created a secure system. Marshall approved every aspect of it. I have documentation." Douglas's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Documentation that you created and control. The fact remains that you designed a vulnerability that has crippled an entire company." Tyler leaned forward. "Just unlock everything and sign the paper. Stop being difficult." My hands clenched under the table. Even if I wanted to, there's still a process. Cloud Vault has security protocols that require verification, authorization codes. It takes 4 to 6 hours minimum. Douglas interrupted. "We're already in contact with Cloud Vault. They've confirmed you can restore access any time." I pulled out my own phone. "Let me call them, right now, on speaker, so we can all hear what the actual process is." I dialed Brad, our account manager at Cloud Vault. He answered on the second ring. "Kathleen, I was wondering when you'd call." "Brad, I'm here with Bridgemont's representatives. I'm putting you on speaker. Can you explain the restoration process?" "Sure. You can restore access, but you'll need to personally verify your identity through our secure portal. That includes 2-factor authentication, security questions, and voice verification. Then you'll need to provide authorization codes. The whole process takes a minimum of 4 hours, sometimes as long as 6, depending on system status. Also, per our contract, any emergency restoration requires the named administrator to be currently employed by the client or officially contracted as a consultant." There was silence in the room. Brad continued. "I should also mention something else. We received a request this morning from someone named Tyler Hargrove trying to claim emergency administrative override. He submitted what appeared to be an employment verification letter claiming Miss Porter still works there. We denied the request per our standard protocols, but I'm required to inform you, Miss Porter, that this attempt was made." The room went very quiet. I looked at Tyler. His face had gone red. "You tried to forge documents to bypass me?" Tyler stood up. "That's not what happened." Brad was still on speaker. The letter claimed Miss Porter's termination had been rescinded and she was currently employed. But when we called your HR department for verification, they confirmed she'd been terminated yesterday. The letter appeared to be falsified. I stood up too. "This conversation is over. If you want to discuss a real contract where I'm properly compensated as an independent consultant to fix your emergency, have your lawyer call my lawyer." Douglas raised an eyebrow. You don't have a lawyer. I will by this afternoon. I walked out. Tyler was shouting something behind me, but I didn't listen. Marshall called my name, but I kept walking. Down the hall, into the elevator, through the lobby where Frank gave me another sympathetic look. The news crews spotted me in the parking lot. Cameras swung in my direction. A reporter started toward me with a microphone. I got in my car and drove away before they could reach me. My phone rang as soon as I hit the street. Jenna Fitzgerald, my best friend since college. She was a paralegal at a law firm downtown. I saw the news. Tell me everything. I did. The whole story. The ambush meeting, the liability waiver, Tyler's forged letter, all of it. You need Howard Marks, she said immediately. He's an employment law specialist. One of the best. I'll text you his number. Call him right now. How much does he cost? Jenna hesitated. A lot. But call him anyway. If your case is as strong as it sounds, he might work something out. I called Howard Marks from the parking lot of a grocery store. By noon, I had an appointment for 2 that afternoon. The losses were at $1.5 million and climbing. Tyler was telling reporters it was a cyber attack. He still hadn't named me publicly, but I knew it was coming. Everything was falling apart faster than I could keep track of. Howard Marks had an office in a renovated building near the Capitol. Exposed brick, hardwood floors, the kind of place that screamed success without being obnoxious about it. His assistant offered me coffee. I accepted even though my hands were already shaking. Howard was 56, gray hair, sharp eyes, expensive suit. He listened to my entire story without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. You have a strong case. Relief flooded through me. Really? Really. You did nothing wrong. You followed industry standard security protocols. Marshall approved everything. You have documentation. Tyler's attempt to forge documents actually helps your position. And the fact that they tried to coerce you into signing a liability waiver without legal representation is problematic for them. So what do I do? We offer to restore their systems for a substantial consulting fee. Then you walk away from this company and never look back. How substantial? $75,000. Plus a comprehensive indemnification clause protecting you from future legal action. Will they pay it? They're losing $40,000 an hour. They'll pay it. It took 2 hours of back and forth. Douglas tried to negotiate down. Howard held firm at $50,000 with full legal protection. Finally, they agreed. The contract was drafted. Restoration scheduled for tomorrow morning at 8. I'd go in, restore access, and be done with Bridgemont Solutions forever. I went home feeling lighter than I had in 2 days. This nightmare was almost over. That evening, I made dinner for the first time since getting fired. Pasta with marinara sauce. Nothing fancy, but it felt good to do something normal. I even turned on a movie, some comedy I'd been meaning to watch. The 10 o'clock news came on during a commercial break. I almost changed the channel. Then I saw my face. The anchor was speaking. Growing controversy at local tech firm Bridgemont Solutions. Sources say a disgruntled former employee may have deliberately designed infrastructure vulnerabilities. My photo was on screen. An old one from the company website. The caption read, Kathleen Porter, former IT administrator. Sources claim Porter created a system that could be weaponized against the company following her termination. The company is seeking legal remedies for damages now estimated at over $1.8 million. My phone started ringing. My mom, my sister, friends, former colleagues. I answered my mom first. Honey, What's happening? Are you okay? I'm fine, Mom. It's all lies. I'll explain later. But the damage was done. My name was public now. And the story being told was that I was vindictive, dangerous, a saboteur. I checked social media. People were already commenting. She should be arrested. Tech workers have too much power. Typical entitled millennial. Someone had found my LinkedIn profile. The comments there were worse. Former colleague wrote, "Always thought she was too controlling with system access." Another, "Not surprised. She never liked sharing authority." My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "You've made a terrible mistake. People like you think you're untouchable. You're not." I blocked the number. 2 minutes later, another text from a different number. "Enjoying your last days of freedom?" I turned off my phone and sat in the dark, trying not to cry. The next morning, I woke to an email that made my blood run cold. From Preston Walsh, Senior Account Executive, Cloud Vault Systems. Subject: Transfer of Named Administrator Designation. Dear Miss Porter, after careful review of the ongoing situation and consultation with our legal team, Cloud Vault Systems is exercising our contractual right per MSA Section 12 to transfer named administrator designation to current company leadership upon receipt of proper court documentation or bonded guarantee. Bridgemont Solutions has provided the requisite bonded guarantee. Transfer will be completed within 48 hours, unless legally contested. Your access privileges remain active until transfer is complete. Please contact me directly with any questions. I called Howard immediately. He answered on the first ring. "There's a clause," he said after I read him the email. "Section 12 allows for emergency transfer if the company posts a substantial bond. It's rare because the bond amount is usually prohibitive. Multiples millions. How much did they post?" He made some calls while I waited on hold, pacing my apartment like a caged animal. When he came back on the line, his voice was grim. $8 million. 8? The losses are only at 2.1 million. Why would they post 8 million? I don't know. But someone really wants you out of the picture. What does this mean for my consulting contract? Probably worthless. Once the transfer completes, they won't need you. They can cancel the contract, claim changed circumstances. You might get a kill fee, but nothing close to $50,000. Can we stop the transfer? We can try to get an injunction, but it would be expensive and time-consuming. The MSA allows for it. They met the requirements. I hung up and called Cloud Vault directly. Preston answered, his voice apologetic but firm. "Miss Porter, I'm sorry. This is just business. $8 million? What's really going on? I can't discuss client confidential matters. But between you and me? Someone there is very motivated. The bond they posted is excessive for this situation." I spent the rest of the day in a haze. The consulting contract that was supposed to save me was evaporating. My reputation was being destroyed on social media. And in 48 hours I'd have no leverage at all. That evening, Tyler posted on LinkedIn. The post didn't name me, but everyone would know who he meant. Dealing with unfortunate infrastructure issues caused by poor planning from former staff. Grateful for the opportunity to build stronger, more resilient systems. Sometimes growth requires clearing out the old to make room for the new. Excited about Bridgemont's future, the comments were full of support. Way to handle a tough situation. Leadership in action. So sorry you're dealing with this. A former colleague texted me, "I'm sorry, Kathleen. Bridgemont is telling clients you went rogue. They're blaming you for everything." I sat on my couch and watched my career implode in real time. Everything I'd built, every relationship I'd fostered, every bit of professional reputation I'd earned, being torn apart by lies. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Miss Porter? This is Preston Walsh from Cloud Vault. I probably shouldn't be calling you directly. Then why are you? Because something doesn't feel right. The bond amount, the urgency. I've been in this business 20 years. This isn't normal. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful. Watch your back. And maybe ask yourself why Tyler Hargrove is so desperate to cut you out completely. He hung up before I could respond. I sat there as the sun set outside my window, and for the first time since this started, I felt truly afraid. This wasn't just about a firing gone wrong. This was something bigger, something I didn't understand yet, and I was running out of time to figure it out. At 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep. My brain wouldn't stop spinning, running through everything that had happened, trying to find the pattern I knew was there. I opened my laptop and plugged in my external hard drive. I'd been meticulous about backing up my work files, even personal copies of projects I was proud of. Every IT professional does it. You never know when you'll need proof of what you built. I started going through old folders, project documentation, system architecture diagrams, email backups. I wasn't sure what I was looking for, but I'd learned to trust my instincts. At 4:30, I found it. A folder labeled Infrastructure Audit, dated 2 years ago. I'd forgotten about this. Marshall had asked me to do a comprehensive review of all our vendor relationships and expenses. Standard stuff, looking for redundancies, making sure we weren't overpaying. I opened the report I'd written. 60 pages of analysis. Everything had looked fine, mostly, except for one section I'd flagged near the end. Irregular payment patterns. Hargrove Consulting Solutions, LLC. I read my own notes from 2 years ago. Bridgemont had been paying this vendor for consulting services, $15,000 a month, for 2 years before I'd caught it. $360,000 total. The problem? I'd never heard of any consulting services. And when I'd tried to verify what Hargrove Consulting actually did, I couldn't find any deliverables. No reports, no documentation, no one at Bridgemont who could tell me what we were paying for. I'd flagged it to Marshall in an email. I pulled up my email backup and found it. Marshall, I wrote 2 years ago. I found some payments that concern me. Hargrove Consulting Solutions, $360,000 over 2 years. I can't find any records of actual services provided. Can you clarify what this vendor does for us? If there's no documentation, we should probably stop these payments and potentially report this to the board. Marshall's response had been brief. Thanks for the catch. I'll look into this personally. In the meantime, don't mention this to anyone else. I need to verify some things first. I'd trusted him. Moved on to other priorities. Never followed up. Now I searched for Hargrove Consulting Solutions online. The company website was bare bones. Registered in Delaware 3 years ago. Principal Officer, Tyler Hargrove. Tyler had been embezzling from his uncle's company before he even worked there. I sat back, my heart pounding. This was why Tyler wanted me gone. Not because I was in his way, because I'd found evidence of his fraud and he couldn't risk me remembering it. I took screenshots of everything. The audit report, the emails, the company registration. Then I called Howard, even though it was 5 a.m. He answered groggy. This better be important. Tyler's been embezzling. I have proof. I sent him everything. An hour later, Howard called back. He'd reviewed it all. This is significant. Corporate fraud. If he continued the payments after you flagged them, and if there really were no services rendered, we're talking about serious crimes. What do we do? We report it. FBI probably. State Securities Board. This needs investigation. I hesitated. What if I'm wrong? What if there's an explanation? Then Marshall can provide it. But Kathleen, this is probably why Tyler's coming after you so hard. He needs you discredited before anyone starts asking questions. Let me think about it. I'll call you back. I spent the morning organizing my evidence. By noon, I felt more in control than I had in days. I had leverage again, not the system's access kind. Something better, the truth. Then my phone buzzed with a bank alert. Account balance, $0.00. I stared at the screen. That was impossible. I'd had almost $8,000 in my checking account yesterday. I called the bank. The representative put me on hold 3 times before explaining. Ma'am, there's a legal hold on your account. A civil judgment. A what? I never received notice of any lawsuit. According to our records, the hold was placed yesterday evening. You'll need to contact the court directly. Which court? I called Howard in a panic. He made calls while I waited, unable to breathe properly. They filed last night, he said. Emergency motion. Claimed you violated the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Got a temporary restraining order and asset freeze. The judge granted it ex parte. What does that mean? Without you present, Douglas argued you were an imminent threat of evidence destruction. Said you might flee with trade secrets. The judge bought it. How much? $4.8 million. I sat down hard on my couch. $4.8 million. The number from the lawsuit. Now attached to my name forever. They froze everything? Everything. Checking, savings, investment accounts. Even your credit cards are blocked. Howard's voice was carefully controlled. I'll file for an emergency hearing, but the earliest we can get is 5 days from now. In the meantime, you're effectively broke. I have $300 in cash. That's it. I'll work pro bono until we sort this out. But Kathleen, this is serious escalation. Tyler's not playing around. After we hung up, I checked the news. The lawsuit was already public. Court filings always are. Austin woman sued for $4.8 million in tech sabotage case. The article had my photo. Details about the lawsuit. Claims that I'd violated federal computer crime laws. That I'd designed a deliberate vulnerability to damage the company. The comments were vicious. Lock her up. Tech workers think they're above the law. Hope she loses everything. My phone rang. The apartment complex manager. Miss Porter, we've received some concerning information about legal issues. We need to schedule a meeting to discuss your lease. I'm not convicted of anything. There's no judgment against me. There's a lawsuit. For almost $5 million. That's a potential liability for us. We need to talk. My LinkedIn was exploding with messages. Most were nasty. Some were from recruiters, withdrawing job opportunities. One was from a former mentor. Kathleen, I don't know what's going on, but this doesn't look good. I have to distance myself. I'm sorry. Tyler posted again. Sometimes trusted people reveal their true nature. Always protect your business and your team. Grateful for loyal colleagues who put the company first. The likes and supportive comments rolled in. Tyler was winning the public relations battle while I drowned. That evening, Jenna came over with groceries and a laptop. You're not going through this alone, she said. I've been digging into Tyler's background. She pulled up a document. Tyler's employment history. He's been fired from 2 companies in the last 5 years. both times for financial irregularities. I found the LinkedIn profiles of people who worked with him. They wouldn't go on record, but they hinted at missing money, creative accounting. Does Marshall know? I doubt it. Tyler's his nephew, his dead sister's kid. He probably never checked. She pulled up more documents, messages she'd found in industry forums. Tyler bragging about his plans before he even joined Bridgemont. Just need to clear out the old guard. Starting with IT. 6 months, and I'll have complete control. He'd been planning this for months, since before he even started at Bridgemont. And I'd been target number 1. We need to show this to Howard, I said. We will, but Kathleen, be prepared. This is going to get worse before it gets better. She was right. I just didn't know how much worse. The police came at 6 in the morning. 2 detectives, badges out, standing at my door like something out of a television show. Kathleen Porter? I'm Detective Sarah Brennan. This is Detective Marcus Cole. We need to ask you some questions about computer crimes. My stomach dropped. I'd been expecting this, but hoping it wouldn't happen. Am I under arrest? Not at this time. But we'd like you to come to the station voluntarily to answer some questions. I called Howard. He was there in 30 minutes, and we drove to the police station in his car. The morning was gray and cold, fitting my mood perfectly. The interview room was exactly like in movies. Small, uncomfortable chairs, mirror on one wall. Detective Sarah was maybe 40, professional, neutral expression. Detective Marcus was younger, took notes while she talked. Bridgemont Solutions filed a criminal complaint, Sarah began. Allegations include unauthorized computer access, tampering with computer systems, and economic cyber terrorism. I never accessed anything after I was fired. They claim you installed what they call a backdoor, a way to access and damage systems remotely. That's completely false. Sarah slid a folder across the table. They provided this. Expert witness statement from their new IT director, Derek Foster. He claims he found suspicious code changes dated to the day you were fired. I looked at Howard. He nodded. I could answer. That's impossible. I was escorted out of the building by security. I never touched a computer after being handed termination papers. Check the security logs. We will, Sarah said. But Derek Foster claims the changes were made remotely. I don't have remote access anymore. CloudVault revoked my credentials when I was fired. That's the whole reason the system's locked down. Marcus spoke up. Tell us about your financial situation. What does that have to do with anything? Just answer the question. They froze my accounts. I have maybe $300 in cash. That's all I have. The detectives exchanged glances. If you were extorting the company, you'd have money, Sarah said. That's odd. I'm not extorting anyone. Tyler Hargrove fired me. The system's locked automatically per our security protocols, and now he's trying to make me look like a criminal to cover his own actions. What actions? I looked at Howard. He nodded again. Tyler's been embezzling from Bridgemont. I found evidence 2 years ago. He's trying to destroy me before anyone realizes what I discovered. That's a serious accusation, Marcus said. I have documentation. I can provide everything. We'll need to see that. The interview went on for 2 more hours. They asked about every detail of the infrastructure, the MSA, my relationship with Tyler and Marshall. I answered everything honestly. Then Marcus got a phone call. He stepped out, came back looking confused. Miss Porter, Bridgemont's systems just crashed again. Worse than before. What? But the transfer to Derek is complete. I don't have access anymore. They're claiming you installed a logic bomb. Malware designed to activate later and destroy data. I stood up. That's insane. I've been sitting here with you for 3 hours. How could I possibly be hacking them right now? They're saying it was programmed in advance. Time delayed. Howard stood too. This is harassment. My client has been in police custody. She couldn't have done anything. The door burst open. Tyler stormed in with Douglas right behind him. Arrest her! Tyler's face was red, his voice shaking. She destroyed everything. All our client data is corrupted. The backups are failing. She killed the company. Sir, you can't be in here, Sarah said. She needs to be arrested immediately. This is felony computer crime. She's been here for 3 hours, Marcus pointed out. She couldn't have accessed your systems. Time-delayed attack. She programmed it before she left. Tyler was practically screaming now. Sarah looked at Douglas. You need to control your client. Douglas at least had the sense to look uncomfortable. He pulled Tyler into the hallway. We could hear muffled shouting. The detectives took me and Howard to a different room. They showed us Derek's analysis of the supposed malicious code. I looked at it and almost laughed. This isn't malicious code. These are standard security protocols I installed 3 years ago. Derek doesn't understand the system architecture. He tried to bypass security measures and triggered emergency preservation mode. What does that mean? Sarah asked. It means the data isn't corrupted. It's protected. When someone tries to access core systems without proper authorization, the system automatically locks down and preserves everything to prevent damage. Derek caused this by not knowing what he was doing. Howard was looking at his phone. He held it up. I just got an email from Preston Walsh at Cloud Vault. He's confirming what Kathleen just said. Derek triggered security failsafes. The data is fine, just inaccessible until proper protocols are followed. Marcus and Sarah looked at each other. They'd been played, and they knew it. There's something else, Howard said. He pulled out the folder of evidence I'd given him. My client has documentation of corporate fraud committed by Tyler Hargrove, embezzlement going back at least 3 years. We believe this entire criminal complaint is retaliation to prevent investigation. The detectives took the folder. They spent 20 minutes reviewing it while Tyler's voice continued to echo from the hallway. Finally, Sarah looked up. We're not arresting Miss Porter. There's insufficient evidence of any crime, but we will be investigating these fraud allegations. Tyler burst back into the room. What do you mean you're not arresting her? There's no evidence she committed any crime, Marcus said flatly. She destroyed our company. No, sir. According to the vendor, your IT director triggered security protocols by attempting unauthorized access. That's not Miss Porter's fault. Tyler's face went from red to purple. Fine. I'll handle this myself. Sir, that sounds like a threat, Sarah said. Douglas grabbed Tyler's arm. We're leaving. Now. They left, Tyler still shouting threats. The detectives let me and Howard go with instructions to stay available. We walked out into afternoon sunlight. I felt exhausted, drained, but also strangely hopeful. The police weren't buying Tyler's lies. Then I got home and found the eviction notice taped to my door. 7 days to vacate. Violation of good conduct clause. The landlord cited the criminal investigation and lawsuit as reasons. I stood there holding the paper, feeling the last piece of my life crumble. My phone rang. Marshall. Kathleen. His voice was slurred. Drunk, maybe. I'm sorry. I didn't know. Tyler showed me fake reports. Said you were stealing. I believed him. I'm an old fool. You let him destroy my life. He destroyed the company. Lost 18 major clients today. Stock is worthless. I'm ruined too. I hung up. I couldn't handle his self-pity on top of everything else. I went inside and sat in the dark apartment I'd have to leave in 7 days. No money, no job, no reputation. Everything I'd built over 6 years gone in less than a week. Tyler had won. My phone buzzed. An email. Preston Walsh, subject line. You need to see this. I opened it, not even sure why I bothered. And everything changed. Preston's email was brief, but the attachments were explosive. Miss Porter, I'm risking my job by sending this, but my conscience won't let me stay silent. Please see attached system access logs from the named administrator transfer. Something is very wrong here. I downloaded the files with shaking hands. They were detailed logs of every action Derek Foster had taken after becoming named administrator. The first few entries were standard. System access, authentication, basic navigation. Then things got weird. Attempted access to financial database subdirectory. Attempted deletion of audit logs directory. Attempted erasure of vendor payment records. Access denied by security protocols. Emergency preservation mode activated. Derek hadn't been trying to restore systems. He'd been trying to destroy evidence. I kept reading. Every attempt he'd made, every command he'd entered, was preserved in the logs, and the timestamps told the story. He'd gone straight for the financial records. Specifically, the records of payments to Hargrove Consulting Solutions. Preston's email continued below the logs. I did some research after finding this suspicious activity. Derek Foster's consulting company is registered at the same address as Hargrove Consulting Solutions. They're business partners. Tyler brought in his accomplice to erase evidence of their fraud, but our security protocols saved everything. I'm copying all logs to a secure server. If anything happens to me or these files, they're programmed to automatically release to federal authorities. I forwarded everything to Howard immediately, then called Jenna. Get over here, now. I need help organizing evidence. She arrived 20 minutes later with her laptop and a determined expression. We spent the next 6 hours building a comprehensive case. The original embezzlement documentation I'd found 2 years ago. Preston's new access log showing Derek's deletion attempts. The business registration records proving Tyler and Derek were partners. The timeline showing the criminal complaint was filed immediately after I'd flagged the suspicious payments to Howard. We had everything. A complete picture of corporate fraud and the conspiracy to cover it up by destroying me. At 2 a.m, Howard filed emergency motions. Motion to dissolve the asset freeze. Motion to dismiss the lawsuit. Criminal complaint to the FBI's White-Collar Crime Division. Complaint to the Texas State Securities Board. Even a report to the IRS, since the fraud had obvious tax implications. He sent copies to every relevant authority. And he sent one to the press. By 8 that morning, reporters were calling. Howard handled it, releasing a carefully worded statement. Evidence has emerged, suggesting Miss Porter was targeted for retaliation after discovering corporate fraud. Documentation has been provided to federal authorities. At noon, I got a text from an unknown number. You've made a terrible mistake. Drop everything or you'll regret it. I showed it to Howard. He told me to forward it to Detective Sarah. I did. 20 minutes later, someone tried to break into my apartment. I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard scraping at the door. Not knocking, scraping, like someone working on the lock. I grabbed my phone and ran to the bedroom, locking that door too. I called 911, whispering that someone was trying to break in. The operator kept me on the line. Police are 2 minutes away. Stay where you are. I heard the apartment door open. Footsteps. someone moving through my living room. Then sirens. The footsteps ran. A door slammed. Police burst in 30 seconds later. They caught him running from the building. Derek Foster. They searched him, found a USB drive labeled Bridgemont Backup and a pair of bolt cutters. He'd been trying to break in to steal evidence or plant something, maybe both. And he was carrying a printed email from Tyler. Get the physical copies from her apartment. Check home office desk. Third drawer. Tyler had sent his partner to burglarize my home. That was witness intimidation, attempted burglary, conspiracy. Derek was arrested on the spot. He tried to lawyer up immediately, but the damage was done. By evening, everything accelerated. FBI agents came to my apartment to interview me. They'd been investigating Bridgemont for securities fraud already, part of a larger probe into corporate malfeasance in the tech sector. My evidence had accelerated their timeline. Miss Porter, one agent told me, you're the break we needed. We've been watching Tyler Hargrove for 6 months. He's done this before, at other companies. What do you mean? He gets hired by wealthy family members or friends, embezzles systematically, then disappears before anyone catches on. Marshall Hargrove was his biggest target yet because Marshall trusted him completely. The dominoes started falling fast. That evening, Marshall showed up at my apartment. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in a week. Broken, defeated, ashamed. I'm filing for bankruptcy, he said quietly. Tyler had power of attorney. Got it last year when I had knee surgery. He cleaned out accounts I didn't even know he could access. Over $4 million. I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. I'm signing an affidavit, supporting you, withdrawing the lawsuit, firing Douglas. He handed me a check. $50,000, your consulting fee. It's all I have left liquid. I took it. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed it to survive. The media got hold of the story that night. FBI raids, Bridgemont Solutions offices, local COO under investigation for corporate fraud. Former employee may have been retaliation target. My phone exploded. Reporters, former colleagues apologizing, job recruiters. The narrative had flipped completely. The emergency court hearing happened the next morning. The judge was not happy. This restraining order was obtained through fraudulent representations, she said coldly. Miss Porter's accounts will be restored immediately. Furthermore, I'm sanctioning Bridgemont's attorneys for filing frivolous claims. Miss Porter is entitled to recover her legal fees. Douglas looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Tyler wasn't even there. He was in FBI custody. I walked out of that courthouse into a wall of cameras. Howard stood beside me, and I gave a brief statement. I did my job with integrity for 6 years. When I discovered financial irregularities, I reported them to management. Instead of investigating, Tyler Hargrove chose to destroy my reputation and my life to cover his crimes. The truth always comes out. Thank you. Simple, direct, true. That night, my bank accounts were restored, plus $8,000 in interest and fees. The apartment complex called to apologize and withdraw the eviction. LinkedIn messages poured in with apologies and support. I'd survived. More than survived. I'd won. But I still had one more battle to fight. 3 months later, I stood in my new office, looking out over downtown Austin. Porter Security Solutions occupied the 4th floor of a building on 6th Street. Not huge, but mine. Built with the settlement money and my own determination. The aftermath had been brutal, but satisfying. Tyler was arrested on 18 federal charges: wire fraud, embezzlement, witness tampering, conspiracy. Derek turned state's evidence in exchange for a reduced sentence, providing testimony about their entire scheme. Tyler was facing 15 to 20 years in federal prison. The civil lawsuit against me was dismissed with prejudice, meaning it could never be refiled. I countersued for defamation, emotional distress, and wrongful termination. Bridgemont's bankruptcy estate settled for $375,000. Douglas was disbarred by the Texas State Bar for ethics violations. Marshall cooperated with federal investigators. As the victim of Tyler's fraud, he faced no criminal charges. But he lost everything. The company, his reputation, his retirement savings. Bridgemont Solutions was sold in bankruptcy to a tech conglomerate that kept some staff, but cleaned house, of everyone connected to Tyler. I didn't take any of the job offers that flooded in after the truth came out. Instead, I started my own firm. Cybersecurity consulting with a specialty in infrastructure protection and contract review, teaching companies how to avoid exactly what happened to Bridgemont. My first 12 clients included 3 Fortune 500 companies. The publicity, ironically, had made me famous in exactly the right way. The woman who'd built unbreakable security and stood up to corporate fraud. Tech magazines profiled me. I was invited to speak at conferences. My calendar was booked 6 months out. The personal aftermath took longer to heal. Some colleagues who'd abandoned me tried to reconnect. I forgave a few, the ones who'd apologized sincerely and admitted they'd been wrong. Others, the ones who'd piled on with public criticism, I politely declined to work with again. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. I'd moved to a better apartment in a safer neighborhood, paid off every debt, started therapy to process the trauma of watching my life nearly destroyed. The nightmares took months to fade. My relationship with my family grew stronger. They'd never doubted me, even when the news made me look guilty. That kind of loyalty mattered more than any professional success. I even started dating again. Nothing serious yet, but it felt good to trust people again, to believe that not everyone was out to destroy me. Marshall and I had coffee occasionally. It was strange, but necessary somehow. He was genuinely remorseful, living in a modest apartment, working part-time at a friend's startup. He'd lost everything because he'd trusted the wrong person. We're not friends, probably never will be, but there's a mutual understanding between us. We were both victims of Tyler's manipulation, just in different ways. Preston got promoted at Cloud Vault. The company recognized his integrity in blowing the whistle, even at risk to his own career. He sends me referrals now. We've become genuine friends. The biggest vindication came from the industry itself. Companies started implementing what they called the Porter Protocol, formal procedures for transitioning named administrators, requiring multi-party authorization and documentation. My nightmare had created positive change. Today was Tyler's sentencing hearing. I almost didn't go, but Howard convinced me it would be good for closure. The courthouse was less crowded than I expected. Just the necessary parties, a few reporters, and me. Tyler looked diminished. Prison jumpsuit, hands cuffed, that arrogant confidence completely gone. He was 30 years old now, and facing 18 years in federal prison. The judge reviewed the case. 18 counts of wire fraud, embezzlement of over $6 million, witness tampering, conspiracy. The evidence was overwhelming. Derek's testimony had sealed it. "Mr. Hargrove," the judge said, "you systematically defrauded your own family. You destroyed a company that employed 200 people. And when an honest employee discovered your crimes, you attempted to destroy her life to cover your tracks. You showed no remorse, only calculation and cruelty. 18 years in federal prison. Restitution of $6.2 million. Lifetime ban from serving as a corporate officer. Tyler's lawyer tried to speak. The judge cut him off. Your client has shown no acceptance of responsibility. This sentence reflects not just the financial crimes, but the deliberate cruelty with which they were executed. As they led Tyler out, he looked at me for the first time. I expected to feel satisfaction, vindication, something. Instead, I just felt tired and sad. What a waste. I walked out of the courthouse into spring sunshine. Howard beside me, Jenna waiting by the car. Life moving forward. That evening, I sat in my office after everyone had gone home, looking at the framed photo on my desk. My old Bridgemont team, taken at a company picnic 3 years ago. Back when I believed good work and integrity were enough. I'd learned hard lessons since then. I learned that doing your job correctly can make you a target. When you build strong systems, document everything, and refuse to cut corners, some people see that as a threat rather than an asset. They feel exposed by your competence. I learned that integrity has a steep price. I lost months of my life to fear and uncertainty. My savings were frozen, my reputation was attacked, my career nearly destroyed, but I kept my self-respect. I never compromised on the truth. That was worth everything I went through. I learned who my real friends were. Jenna, who never doubted me for a second. Howard, who took my case when I couldn't pay him. Preston, who risked his career to expose the truth. Those relationships matter more than any professional success. They're the foundation everything else is built on. I learned that sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing. Walking away from that first offer to fix the systems would have been easier. Signing their liability waiver would have ended it quickly. But it would have established a pattern of letting them exploit me. Standing firm, even when it cost me everything temporarily, was the only path that led here. Most importantly, I learned you can't control what people do to you, but you can absolutely control how you respond. I could have given up when my accounts were frozen and my reputation was shredded. I could have taken revenge, done something stupid and vindictive. Instead, I fought with truth and evidence and patience. That's the only kind of victory that lasts. My story became a cautionary tale in the tech industry. But I want it to be more than that. I want it to be proof that the system can work, that truth matters, that standing up for yourself, even against powerful people, is possible. It won't be easy. It wasn't easy for me. There were days I wanted to quit, nights I cried myself to sleep, moments I thought I'd lost everything that mattered. But I didn't lose. I survived. And then I thrived. My phone buzzed. A new client inquiry. A young woman facing retaliation at her company for reporting financial irregularities. She'd found my name online, read my story, wanted to know if I could help. I smiled and typed a response. Yes, I can help. Let's schedule a consultation. And let me tell you something important. You're going to get through this. Because I did. And if I could survive what Tyler Hargrove tried to do to me, anyone can survive their own battles. The sun was setting over Austin, painting the sky orange and purple. My city, my company, my life, rebuilt from ashes. They tried to bury me. They didn't know I was a seed. And now I'm blooming, stronger than I ever was before, helping others grow too. That's the ultimate victory. Not just surviving, but thriving. Not just healing, but helping. That's my story. That's my truth. And I'm grateful every single day that I had the courage to fight for it. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up against injustice at work? Have you discovered something wrong and faced retaliation for speaking up? How did you handle it? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might help someone else going through something similar. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps others find this message. And subscribe to hear more stories about everyday people fighting extraordinary battles and winning. Share this with someone who needs to hear that standing up for yourself is worth it, even when it's hard. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope it gives you courage for whatever battles you're facing in your own life. Remember, integrity has a price, but it's always worth paying. The truth always comes out, and you're stronger than you think. Take care of yourselves. Fight your battles with evidence and truth, and never let anyone make you doubt your worth. Until next time.